Hi there, my name's Jamie. Welcome to my channel. I am doing my first video in this new direction because have, I think, found what I want to talk about, which is self-development and just self-help in general across all aspects of life. It's a massive hobby of mine. One of my passions is learning and developing myself and finding the answers to questions that people ask every single day but don't do anything about. And so I want to sort of use that passion and create some videos that hopefully will help people, and we can create a community where we can talk, come up with new ideas, and generally just better ourselves as we go. I have no expertise in terms of, like, I'm not a financial advisor, I haven't got any degrees or anything like that. I am just a real person, and that is the key thing that I want people to take away from this. I'm a real life person living in the UK, and I've got my own stresses, I've got debt, I've got all sorts, and I want to use this as like a journey of self-development effectively. And I want people to come along for the journey and hopefully see that there is light at the end of the tunnel. A little bit of a backstory into me. So in my early 20s, I started spending lots of money I did not have. Every paycheck would literally go into technology, and I would buy the latest iPad, the latest iPhone. I'd have two phone contracts at one time, so that I could upgrade my phone twice a year. I would buy fast food as and when. I'd have a gym membership, car finance, all these different things all going out my account every month. So I was living paycheck to paycheck, and that was an understatement. On top of that, I took loans out because seeing that much money in my bank account was exciting, and it meant I could buy different things. I could treat myself to different experiences. I took out, I think it was about 9 grand's worth of debt so that I could travel to New Zealand and spend a month driving around New Zealand, which is one of the best experiences I've ever had in my life. But I'm paying for it now. If I'd done it in a different way, I could have that and not have to worry about it. But it is what it is. So I am now 32 years old. I have got about £25,000 worth of debt, which is currently all in an IVA. And that is the title of this video. I am stuck in an IVA. So what does that mean? What does that entail? Is it bad? Should anyone go into it? And that's the sort of questions that I want to answer, hopefully, and hopefully people can relate to and people can understand, and maybe some people will find some help out of this. So how did I get into the IVA? So the IVA was a option that I stumbled across. I was up shit creek without a paddle, to say the least. I was living in my car. I had no money at all. I had used up all of my loan money, all of my spare cash, and I was living literally paycheck to paycheck. I was in about £800 worth of overdraft in my account. My credit cards were all maxed out. I was fucked. I had just bought so much technology. I bought so much debt onto myself in all sorts of ways. And even if I reduced my monthly outgoings by like cancelling the gym or cancelling Netflix, etc., I felt like it wouldn't have done anything. All it would have done was made me less happy. So I kept them and I started looking around. No one would lend me any money because my credit score was so bad. I'm single, so I've got no one to help me out. My relationship with my dad was patchy, to say the least. I was not in a good way with my dad. So as much as I could have asked him for help, and I have done in the past, it wasn't something I wanted to do at that time. That would have sent me into a spiral of depression, and I didn't want to go down that path. So what I was left to do was to browse the internet and look for options, and bankruptcy kept coming up as an option. Everybody was saying bankruptcy is the only option if you've got this much debt. It was bankruptcy, 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 and that terrified the shit out of me. And I looked into it, and I looked at it, and I looked at what the benefits would be over in 12 months. I might have some bits to pay afterwards, but effectively I'd be debt free in 12 months. However, I would lose so much. And at the time, my car was my house. So to put my car in the firing range was just not an option, because if I didn't have that, I would be on the street. And that's something I couldn't do. So I started looking around, and somebody said that there was an alternative called an IVA, which I had no idea what this was. And I decided to go down that rabbit hole and have a look into it. And a lot of people were saying this was pretty good. It's a good alternative to bankruptcy, is what it was. It's not good. I wouldn't recommend anyone goes through an IVA and hopefully sorts their money out before they ever get to that point. But the IVA was my get out of jail card. It was my only option at this point that I could see. So I went down the path. I started a WhatsApp group chat with one of these professionals that work for the IVA company. We started talking, we started understanding my finances. Is this something that will work for me? And fundamentally it was, but it was all down to me. Can I be strict with my money, etc.? Because that's what an IVA does. Pure and simple, what a IVA does is it just throttles you in terms of what you can do, what you're spending, etc. And while you still can spend, you will screw yourself if you do that. Being in an IVA is almost like having handcuffs on behind your back and a blindfold, because that's what it feels like anyway, because I feel like you cannot do that much with your money. You can still spend normal day to day, and this is the biggest thing I want people to understand with an IVA. If you go into an IVA, you can still spend money like you normally do. I still have Netflix, Amazon Prime, Disney. I still spend £400 a month on food, etc. It's not like I'm suddenly starving myself because I can't afford to do anything. The IVA works around your lifestyle and around you, which is the good thing. I'm with a company called Forest King, and I'm assuming they're all pretty much the same, but effectively what the IVA company will do is every year they will review my finances. So I will send them all my bank slips, I will send them my bank statements for the year effectively, and they will review it, and they will look at how much spare cash that I have, and that spare cash is where they would then make a decision on how much per month I will need to pay them. Now when I pay them the money, so for example when I first started out, based on my spare cash at the end of all of my outgoings, which you have to sort of list out and say, I reckon I'll spend this much on food, this much on clothes, this much on toiletries, household stuff, etc. And once you've got that number, for me it was £170. So the £170 per month, and that effectively is going towards, one is the admin fees for the insolvency company, for the IVA, and then two, it's going towards all my creditors. So all the people that I owe money to, it goes to them. A chunk, a little bit goes to each one. Now they all have to agree. So this is where it gets difficult. When you sign up to an IVA, you put all your cards on the table, you are completely honest, you say where all your money's going, where all your debt is, and then you give all the information over. The IVA company will then find all these people, all these businesses that you owe money to, and it will present an offering, which could be, Jamie will pay X amount of money per month towards this, do you agree? They all have to agree, and if they all agree, then you go into the IVA and you start the IVA, which is a 5-year term, sometimes 6. I'm hoping mine is 5. And yeah, so that £170 chips away at my debt. You are not going to pay off. The whole point is you're not going to pay off all of your debt. I'm not going to pay the 25 grand, 30 grand, or whatever it is off at the end of my 5 years. But at the end of the 5 years, anything remaining gets wiped off, gets just done. And then your life starts. And that's the key. You have to use this as a 5-year cooling off period where you reset your life, and then your life can begin again. Now, being 32 and being slap bang in the middle of my IVA, I've got 2 years left, I believe. So when my IVA finishes, I will be able to start my life properly, and that'll be where I can really start to save money, and I can start being better with my money, start investing, etc. As it is right now, it's hard to save because a lot of my money is now going back to the IVA, because where I got a new job, so this is where this is what they don't tell you. It's in the small print, but no one reads the small print. But I got a new job that pays, I think it was 6-7 grand pay rise on what I was paying, on what I'd been paid before. And so that money, to a degree, has to go to the IVA, because you're in debt. You're the one that's got yourself in a situation. You need to pay. If you can pay more money, you need to pay off more debt, and that's what I had to do. So my outgoings for my IVA company went from £170 to £460. So £460 every month goes to the IVA company, which a lot of people will say that's a lot of money, but it's nothing compared to what I was paying. Before the IVA company, I was paying hundreds more than that. I was probably paying maybe £900 a month in just debt, and that's just credit cards, overdraft, all these different things. Not to mention my credit score was crap, and at any second, bailiffs could come knock on the door and take everything. Like, £400 is a small price to pay to get out of debt. Now, I could go into a whole video about how not to get into debt in the first place, but unfortunately, if you're like me and you live in the UK, it's a shit show. And so you spend money because the life is hard. It's not an excuse in any sense, but it's what happened to me. Life just kept punching me and kept kicking me. And the only thing I could do was throw money at it and hope that fixed that issue. Oh, that fixed that issue. Oh, I'm happy now because of this. And it's not the answer. So it's got me into debt. I'm in the IVA, and that's where I'm at. Now, should people do it? Yes, if they're at a certain point. Now, obviously, there are strict criteria into getting into an IVA, and obviously, I can't know for sure if anyone's going to be applicable to that. But if anybody is thinking about bankruptcy or is in massive amount of debt and they just don't know what to do, they're terrified, they don't want to speak to their significant other, they don't want to speak to their family, anything like that, because they're so embarrassed and they hadn't realised because they've not looked at their bank account in 6 months, and then suddenly, oh shit. An IVA is an option, and I would implore you to look into it and start going down the path of like understanding what an IVA could do for you, because it's 5 years of your life. It takes all of those debts, puts them into one single monthly payment, and you chip away at it. Now, you have to be completely transparent with any money related to things during the time. So if I win the lottery, I don't play the lottery, but if I won the lottery, that money would have to go towards the IVA company. If my mum or dad passed away and I got some money, that money would have to go to the IVA company. Any money that comes to me that's significant has to go to the IVA company. It's in there. If you try and hide it, they can end the agreement, and all that debt will come flying back at me with vengeance. So it's vital that you are honest, and you have to be honest with yourself. One of the biggest lessons I've learned is to look at my money. So I review my finances definitely every week. So I have a spreadsheet that I created whereby I effectively put all my finances where I'm at currently month to date, and I look at my finances and see where I'm going. Am I on the right track? Am I not on the right track? Do I need to shift gear slightly? Whatever it needs to be. And that I do once a week without fail. On the daily, I will just look at my account. So I've got Monzo, so I'll just go into my account and I'll just look at my finances. And I'll look how much savings I've got, look at my current account. That's it, basically, and I just look at it. That's all I do. What's upcoming that I've forgotten about, what's I've already paid, all that sort of stuff. And I'll just look at it, and that information alone helps me out because it helps me understand my money. And that's the biggest thing. So many people are terrified to open up their bank account because they don't want to see minus £2 or £3.36 left in your account, and you've got a 20 quid Netflix subscription coming out in 2 days. It's shit scary. But for me, being in that position and doing all that and being terrified and having your card declined in a supermarket or at the cinema, then you go, oh, let me just go and get my other card. even though I use Apple Pay, and then you never come back because you're that embarrassed. Like, it helps to look at your account and know where you are in your money. If you do it every day, you look at your money, you suddenly realise you're not scared of the money because you're looking at it each day. When you don't look at it every single day and you don't look at it every week and you don't actually look at your finances, it's terrifying because you don't know what it could be. It's the fear of the unknown. So for me, looking at it every single day has helped so much. The IVA company, I barely communicate with. The only times I'll communicate with them is if my circumstances change. So my partner, she's just got a brand new job. So likelihood is I will need to put more money towards the bills. And so I need to message my IVA company and say, heads up, I'm going to be spending a bit more money each month for this. And then hopefully in the year, when I get to the annual review, they can knock down my monthly payments because my spare cash has gone down. And they still want me to be able to live my life. That's the whole point. The whole point is you can live a life, but you're still paying for the sins, just in a nicer way. Bankruptcy, I haven't looked that much into it, other than 2-3 years ago when I started looking at it. And from what I can tell, you just throw all your assets into this pile and say, there it is, declare bankruptcy. They'll sell off whatever they can, if it's significant, to pay your debts back. You pay as much of your debt back as possible, and then 12 months later you're wiped clear and your job done. But that bankruptcy stamp that sits on your file, that stays with you for years. And that's what I didn't want, because if I at that time had found somebody that I want to spend the rest of my life with, I've got to tell them that, we can't get a mortgage because I've got a bankruptcy stamp on my file, which will be there for 10-15 years, whatever it needs to be. I don't know what the actual numbers are, but I know it's a long time, and you don't want to be seen as that. Some jobs won't hire you because you've got a bankruptcy. Like, it's because you're a risk. You might steal money from the tills, that sort of thing. So the IVA was and is the safest option. IVA, you don't need to necessarily, some jobs, the job I'm in at the moment, I didn't have to divulge that. I had to divulge if I was in bankruptcy or if I had any CCJs, but because that doesn't count as any of those, you don't need to know. They don't need to know. It's just it's a debt management plan. That's all it is. That's all it is. And so you are now in control of your finances. You are paying back your debt. You're never going to pay it all off. And so once that's all done, I can start my life. And when I met my partner that I'm with currently, I was open and honest from the get-go. Like, before we even got, I think, official, I said, just an FYI, this is my finances, this is where I'm at. Don't get me wrong, in 5 years' time, this is where I'm going to be at. And I can assure you that this is what I'm going to be doing. And that was enough. She trusted me. I trust her. She could look in my bank account whenever she wanted to. There's that much trust and openness. Like, it's fantastic. And I think it matters who you're with at the time as well. If you're by yourself, it can be hard, and I get that, which is one of the reasons why I want to start this channel, is just to be there to help people that are out there as well, that are on their own. They don't have that partner to help them. I'm very lucky in the fact that I met somebody who has allowed me to be completely myself, and I trust 100% with everything in my life. No secrets, no nothing. And it is the biggest weight off your shoulders when you're in this sort of position. And to the point where I'm not worried about the IVA anymore. It's annoying spending £400 a month, but I know it's building my future to a degree. I wish that £400 was going into an investment, but it can't, because I've made mistakes and it can't go back in time. The power of hindsight. But all of my mistakes have led me to where I am right now, which is in a happy relationship with somebody that I'm madly in love with, who I'm going to spend the rest of my life with, who has given me the strength to start proving to myself that I can do things better. So being with her and doing all these things and being in an IVA, etc., has led me to where I am right now, which is where I wake up early every morning. I go to the gym, I journal, I take vitamins, I manage my health more than I ever have done. I've done keto, I've done carnivore. I am in the best shape of my entire life. mentally and physically, it is all because of all the mistakes I've made. And I'm not inviting anyone to go and make mistakes, but I know there's people out there that have probably already made the same mistakes as me, but haven't necessarily found the hook to get them into their new way of living, or haven't realised that there is another way of living. And that's what I want to do. I want to try and bridge that gap and help people to realise you are probably in the best position to get into this place, because you've been at rock bottom. You've seen the worst of yourself and the worst of the world, and the climb that you will do when you come out of that is just, you can't beat it. It's so good. And yeah, so this is more of like an introduction video. It's my first video, so hopefully this is resonate with somebody. And yeah, I'll do more of these, and they'll be a bit more specific about certain topics, and hopefully we'll build a community, help each other out, and yeah, move on with our lives. Thanks.